Hi there, good morning. How are you? I'm just enjoying this beautiful light coming in through the window. It just rained and it's just magical. It's just a short little spurt of rain. So, today's topic is something that I've dealt with for many years actually, but it came up in conversation yesterday with a dear friend that I haven't seen for a while, and she's suffering through this right now, so it was very pertinent for her. And I thought that I would share it today. Before I say anything about this topic, which is the narcissist, I want to say that the narcissistic personality disorder is a response to trauma, to depression. So it's a coping mechanism for people to stay in a state of high, elevated sense of self, in a manic sort of state, so that they can prevent themselves from suicidal tendencies and depression and other low tendencies. And of course, I don't think that this is pre-planned. I think it's subconsciously deeply rooted. This decision must have happened at some point after the trauma happened to them. So we can have compassion for narcissists. However, having compassion for a narcissist does not mean standing in front of them and getting abused by them over and over once you figure out their MO. It means setting good boundaries so you can protect yourself, and having compassion for them from that distance. So let's look at what it's like when you encounter a narcissist. And they could be a romantic suitor, they could be your parent, they could be a sibling, someone at work. The MO is usually the same. When they first encounter you, they will flatter you, they'll praise you, they'll support you, they'll be really, really nice to you. And you'll start to feel refreshed, you'll start to feel really good because they're building you up. Your ego will get a good massage and you might feel supported by them. They might be very generous with you, they might charm you, they might charm your friends and win them over. And one thing to remember is that their public persona is extremely different from their private persona. So in public, they might be the perfect gentleman or perfectly kind person, perfectly gracious woman, helpful, generous, supportive, kind. And you might feel that you're in this beautiful relationship with this person, and your friends will be really happy for you and they'll be really supportive. In private, once they've got you hooked into all that praise, and here's the cincher, if you have low self-esteem or low confidence in any particular way, that's where they'll get you, because they'll start to support you and you'll start to rely on that support. Then, once they have you hooked in private, they'll start to put you down, they'll start to criticize you, they'll start to criticize your friends, your family, because they want to keep you more attached to them than to your other people in your life, because then you won't be able to run to them for help, because they're trying to hook you now, put you down, and things start to become your fault. So if they're unstable, they'll blame you for it. If they're angry and they're having an angry outburst, they'll blame you for it. And they'll find a clever way to flip the story. And you start to get really confused, because in private, you're the bad guy and nothing you do is ever good enough. But the moment you're in public, everything's peachy and they're treating you really nicely. So you start to feel like you're going a little bit wacko. You start to feel confused and frustrated. But because you're an empath, you really want to, figure out what it is you did wrong, because they keep blaming you, and because you care about them, and either you fall in love with them or you really love them and you care about them. So you keep trying to make things better until you get to a point where you're so frustrated and you snap and you realize that they're just lying to you, blatantly treating you terribly in private and then trying to pretend that everything's great in public. And they're using you for something. Either it's room and board, your contacts, maybe they're using your skill set to further themselves in their lives. And they will never admit to it, they will never apologize, and they never loved you, truly, because they can never commit. So this is an extremely painful situation to go through if you're the empath. And if they're the narcissist, maybe they do love you, but they're not really able to love you in a healthy way. And that becomes very painful when you try to leave them. And so I was in a relationship with a textbook narcissist for about 3 years, and I left them a couple times and went back to them. We had a strong, loving connection, but they were really abusive, and they were deliberately abusive. And that's what really finally prompted me to leave, was my self-respect. And I realized that I was too much of a people pleaser, too much of an empath, and not enough in terms of self-loving. I wasn't loving myself and respecting myself enough intrinsically. And so I resolved not to date for a long time until I could figure this out. And I started writing my books on self-love and on trauma. All the patterns became very clear. And so now, if I do encounter a narcissist, I can usually tell within the first few months. And sometimes they can be really wonderful, and they are wonderful people, but they've been terribly abused, and they will abuse you, and they're somewhat addicted to that abuse, and they won't stop. And so you cannot change them, you cannot stop them. You've got to keep your distance, you've got to set your boundaries, and you've got to take care of yourself. And that can be really hard for empaths and for healers who want to really help. You cannot help a person unless they admit to having a problem and unless they want your help. They can pretend to want your help in order to get close to you. I've had that too with a client, very charming, beautiful, wanted my help, took my help, showed me their improvement, and then completely snapped back into their pattern. And when I called them out, they got really angry, even angrier. And then they pretended like nothing happened, and they wanted me to get back into the cycle with them. And I said, nope, I'm not doing that. And I stuck to my guns. And eventually, if you encounter this long enough, the pattern becomes extremely clear. Unfortunately, encountering it over and over is painful until you're able to see it and stay detached. So narcissistic personality disorder is not a joke. It is serious, and they gaslight you. They'll tell you that something's wrong with you, you're too sensitive, why can't you get this right? It's always your fault, and so it's one of the telltale signs. The other sign, as I mentioned earlier, is that they'll flatter you, they'll praise you, they'll be really nice to you, and then they'll turn on you. And everything will become your fault. And their persona in public is very different from what it is in private. And when you see the true colors, you become really shocked. It can be really hurtful, and you've got to get out of there. So let me know if you've experienced this and what your thoughts are about it. And the real journey here is for us to have strong self-confidence and self-respect, which come from true self-love, which I'll be talking about soon in my series, and to set healthy boundaries, and to be observant and not fall for the flattery and the praise. If you know yourself and love yourself well, and you know who you are, you will detect that false praise coming your way. And it might even be genuine praise. But why does the person need to praise you? Why can't they just be around you and give you a compliment in a more subtle way? Why do they have to build you up so much? That's one of the telltale signs. They'll try to build you up a lot, and then they can crush you. So be careful who you're around, and ask yourself the question, why are they with me? Am I being my true self, and do they really think that that is something worthy? Or are they trying to build me up and tear me down because they want something from me? And it's really, really hard to detect the other if we don't know the self. So the moral of the story is to deal with a narcissist, and to deal with anything, know yourself, love yourself, and respect yourself. That will help you navigate pretty much everything in life, everything that life throws at you. All right, so let me know your experience. Share with me. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Love you.